I'm grateful to be part of a group working on the most important thing, and to be here to introduce the amazing morning lesson, the crucial part of our days. Friends, may we open our hearts. May we fill the rabos through the voice of our great friend Coral from the Florida 10. Rush, each one shall help his friend. It is written one does not deliver oneself from imprisonment. Rather it is one's friend who can lift his spirit. This means that one's friend raises him from his state into a state of liveliness. Then one begins to require strength and confidence of life and wealth, and he begins as though his goal is now near him. It turns out that each and everyone must be attentive and think how he can help his friend raise his spirit, because in the matter of spirits, anyone can find a needy place in one's friend that he can fill. Read again. Rabash, it is written, one does not deliver oneself from imprisonment. Rather, it is one's friend who can lift his spirit. This means that one's friend raises him from a state into a state of liveliness. Then one begins to require strength and confidence of life and wealth, and he begins as though his goal is now near him. It turns out that each and everyone must be attentive and think how he can help his friend raise his spirit, because in the matter of spirits anyone can find a needy place in one's friend that he can fill. Now we go to active workshop. David, active workshop. How do we give our friends a spirit of liveliness? Again, active workshop. How do we give our friends a spirit of liveliness? In our town, there's a friend called Australia. Is in Australia. A few days ago, we talked to a friend, and following that chat, he sent us a song, very moving song about the path and about the states person goes through. He sent it to the 10 as a gift, as a present. Just another small example of how a friend, while I was sitting there listening to that song in the afternoon, and I was very moved. So to the friends who gave you New Year things that you didn't even consider. Yeah, it was really exciting. The spirit of life for us isn't that someone thinks of himself and pulls something for himself, but being concerned of the friends, praying for the friends that they will succeed on the path, and concern and love and prayer. That's the spirit of life for us. A person has life where he feels that what he's doing has importance and meaning. We use all of our activities to elevate that importance in us and for each other. So long as we maintain that importance, elevate it holding the Creator above our heads, then we have life. If we lower him, we fall from life. Be busy and think and be concerned about it all the time. How to awaken the Creator and how to bring spirit of life to the friends. So we'll find each friend will find his own way, but we have to be busy at this. Yesterday I got to hear Dave and Gon conduct a webinar for people interested in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and I was impressed. I was excited. We got an invitation to get close to divinity. There's nothing higher than that, and if you can convey to friends and other created beings, there we're on the wave. Whatever we do and gather and participate, just not to forget to ask for the friends. That should be our true prayer. Every moment we have, we can find a way to make them glad. Silent workshop. Let's enter the lesson with the intention for connection and our vote. Again, silent workup. Let's enter the lesson with the intention for connection and our vote. Shalom. Friends, in the first part of today's lesson, we'll watch a recorded lesson from the 16th of June 2022, a lesson on Shamartia Article 195 rewarded. I will hasten it. Shalom. Hello, we are reading from the writings of the article of Shamarti 195 rewarded. I will hasten it. You can find the study material in the system. When you click the study material tab in the top menu, you can send your questions through the system, and selected questions on the study material will be asked during the lesson. Again, the writings of Shamartia Article 195 rewarded. I will hasten it. Rewarded. I will hasten it. Meaning path of Torah, not rewarded through suffering, an evolutionary path that will finally lead everything to utter perfection. This means that for sure we will reach the wholeness, perfection, the end of the path through the correct development. But in two things, in two paths, either by the path of I will hasten it or on the path of in each side the path of suffering. And in between these two actually is our destiny, our fate. So what do we choose? As he writes here that finally everything will reach the utter perfection. What next? The path of Torah means that an ordinary person is given virtues by which he can make for himself vessels that are ready for it, ready for the correct state, and the vessels are made through the expansion of the light and its departure. As we learned it, that the expansion of the light and its departure make the vessel that is fit qualified for its role. It builds in the vessel a deficiency for the light. The expansion alone is not enough. The departure is also required only after it tasted something, and it can yearn for it after it had stopped. A vessel clay is specifically called the will to receive. This is what it is called, that he tastes something and then he no longer has it. This means that he lacks something, and there is no light without a vessel, or because the light must be caught, must be captured in some place. So it will have a hold. So there has to be a deficiency for this light, for this taste of the light. But an ordinary person cannot have deficiency. Efficiencies for sublime things. This is for each and everyone when he develops, since it is impossible to have a deficiency before there is fulfillment. As it is written, the expansion of their light and its departure. So first we seemingly need to receive the fulfillment, and then when the fulfillment, the feeling stops, then we will have the deficiency, and then with this deficiency we will long for the fulfillment. For example, when a person has a 000, then he is rich and content. However, if he subsequently earns more, let's say up to £5,000, and later he loses the £5,000 until he's left with 2,000, meaning earlier first he had 1,000, then he gained 5,000, and now he lost and he went down to 2,000. So now he's deficient. Now he has vessels for £3,000 that he's lacking, that he had from the food to from the 5,000 down to 2,000 since he had already had it. Thus he has actually been being cancelled, and there is a path of Torah for this. When one is accustomed to the path of Torah to regret the scantiness of attainment, and every time he has some illuminations, and they are divided, then they cause him to have more sorrow and more vessels. This means that each time he has a sense and descents, and this is how he builds the vessels. This is the meaning of every clay lacking light, that it is not filled, that its light is missing. Thus every deficient place becomes a place for faith, meaning that it's not, and that I lack what I had, and now it is gone, but rather, I lack what I was able to give, and now I don't have anything to give. Soon we will check that. Yet where it feels there would be no existence of a vessel, the existence of a place for faith. This means that if a person would not receive, let's say, those £5,000, and would later lose it, and feel that he's lacking it, then he would have no place for faith, meaning he would have no deficiency, no feeling of a deficiency, that there could be more but it's missing, and now he needs to establish his relation to that feeling that he had, and now he doesn't have it. This article is not so simple. We will scrutinize it. We will read it a few times and check if we are able to understand it today. So you, Dari, please read it. Measure 195. Rewarded, I will hasten it. Rewarded, I will hasten it. Meaning the path of Torah, not rewarded through suffering, an evolutionary path that will finally lead everything to utter perfection. The path of Torah means that an ordinary person is given virtues by which he can make for himself vessels that are ready for it, and the vessels are made through the expansion of the light and its departure. A vessel is specifically called the will to receive. This means that he lacks something, and there is no light without a click, for the light must be caught in some vessel. So we would have a hold. But an ordinary person cannot have desires for sublime things, since it is impossible to have a need before there is fulfillment. As it is written, the expansion of the light, for example, when a person has a 000 pounds is rich and content. However, if he subsequently earns more up to £5,000, and then loses it until he's left with 2,000, he's then deficient. Now he has vessels for £3,000, since he had already had it. Thus, he has actually been cancelled, and there is a path of Torah for this. When one is accustomed to the path of Torah to regret this scantiness of attainment, and every time he has some illuminations and they are divided, they cause him to have more sorrow and more vessels. This is the meaning of every vessel needing light, that it is not filled, that its light is missing. Thus every deficient place becomes a place of faith, for faith, yet were it filled there would be no existence of our existence of a place for faith. Let's see how much we understood. We'll see. What does it mean? That he attains the degree of faith when the light enters the vessel and departs from it. I didn't understand what he's asking. We are talking here about the formation of the deficiency in the desire, just a desire that he wants that potentially. He's ready, that's nothing but rather there it has to be something which is to find what exactly do you want. So what is happening here is that the person gives £5,000, let's say, and later on he loses out of this £3,000. So over these £3,000 he has a deficiency. This is how a deficiency is built. Not just a deficiency that comes from the creator, but something which is well defined that the person feels already. So what is the question again? Is this deficiency called faith? We're not talking about faith for now. We are talking about the formation of the deficiency. That's it. What does it mean to have a deficiency? For the feeling of the light, in our case, we get from above all kinds of different states. These states build in us all kinds of feelings and efficiencies. By this we begin to feel. What does it mean to be close to bestow? Far away from bestow, closer to connection, farther away from connection. All kinds of such discernments which are not with respect to this world, not measurements of this world, but rather measurements in spirituality. And this is how we begin to acquire vessels for spirituality. It's not yet vessels of faith, but nevertheless in that we have a certain relation to distancing versus nearing. We begin to measure ourselves, not according to how much do we receive, and or how much we do not receive, or we become emptied because we don't have any measurement in that yet, but rather our measurement is in how much we nevertheless can yearn for connection between us, or we distance between us, and then in that we have some feeling, a certain discernment or not. All in all, this is where we are for now, at least 2000. In our case, there's the feeling of connection more or less in the example. It's not how he explains it, but you can translate it in this way, that now we have connected and we evaluate our connection, let's say is £5,000, and later on we feel ourselves that we have become separated, we're farther away in our feeling from each other up to, let's say, only 2,000. So how much did we lose from 5,000 to 2,000? But earlier we were only in 1,000, right? And so in between these three states, 1,000, 2,000 and 5,000, we can determine ourselves. Okay, Spain. Friends, it says that he has actually been cancelled. So the vessels that he had for £3,000, since he had already had it, thus he actually been cancelled. It's not clear what it means. Let's read it again. I'm reading the article rewarded I will hasten it. It is written rewarded I will hasten it, meaning the path of Torah. Through the path of Torah we reach the purpose of creation, the building, the construction of the vessel for the revelation of the Creator, not rewarded. Meaning, if it's not through the path of I will hasten it, not the path of Torah, then it is through suffering, which is an evolutionary path that, finally, will lead everything to utter perfection. So through the path of suffering, we also reach the purpose. Ultimately, everyone reaches it. The question is only through which path, and in which pace, through which states. The path of Torah means that an ordinary person is given virtues by which he can make for himself vessels that are ready for it. This means that the person himself actually prepares the vessels for his advancement towards the Creator, and the vessels are made through the expansion of the light and its departure. A vessel is a deficiency, a lack. So the expansion of the light in a desire and its departure from the desire build the desire such that it already wants the fulfillment. A vessel, a kli, is will to receive. This means that he lacks something. He feels that he's lacking something, and there is no light without a kli. Or there, according to his deficiency, he can then say, I want this, I'm yearning for this, and when he will receive it, he will feel that this is what he wanted. So the light must be captured in some place so that it will have a hold, so that there will be a connection between the light and the vessel, so that he received exactly what he wanted. But an ordinary person cannot have deficiencies for sublime things, for spirituality, since it is impossible to have a deficiency before there is fulfillment, and he has never yet felt spiritual fulfillment. So how will he yearn for it? So for example, when a person has a 000 hinds, he's rich, he has and he's content. But now he has 1,000 and he can do something with it. However, if he subsequently earns more, let's say up to £5,000, and then loses until he is left with 2,000, he is then deficient, meaning that he had 5,000, now only he has only 2,000. So here a vessel is made which he didn't have before, a lakh for £3,000, because he had had it already. It follows that it had been cancelled, meaning that he had a vessel, had the fulfillment of 5,000. He was left with a fulfillment of 2,000. So now he has a deficiency for £3,000. But at first he had only 1,000. But that doesn't matter. And he had 2,000 later. So we always measure according to what he had before. The custom to the path of Turatu. Regret the scantiness of attainment. How come I don't have it? How come I don't attain it? How come I don't understand? How come I don't feel? And every time he has some illuminations, and they are divided. This happens within us. It changes all the time. Then they cause him to have more sorrow and more vessels, bit by bit. This is how we build the vessels, even though we don't feel it. But it does occur inside of us. It cooks inside of us. This is the meaning of every vessel. Lacks light, but it is not filled, and its light is missing. Thus, every deficient place becomes a place for faith. But now, when the light does not fill the vessel, then the light of faith can appear there, meaning I don't need to receive what I was lacking. I don't need the deficiency that was revealed in me to fill it in the direct manner, but rather I want to fulfill this place with the light, with the desire to bestow that. I would like to bestow this to the Creator. This is the meaning of every vessel, lacking light, that it is not filled, that its light is missing. Thus every deficient place becomes a place for faith, yet where it filled there would be no existence of a vessel, existence of a place for faith. So we would never reach feeling in, instead of, let's say, these £3,000 dollars, or whatever he had, whatever the currency was, pounds. So you wouldn't be able to feel, instead of the £3,000, to feel the Creator according to the equivalence of form. That if he would want to rise above the deficiency that he feels in order to receive, if he would rise above it, and by that he wants to resemble or connect to the source of the filling, by this he would gain a connection with the Creator. We need to try to perform this, to carry it out, then you will feel how it works. Okay, Baltia 4. What is that great prophet in the 10? How can we feel that he had it, and now he had lost it? No. Well, in the 10 it's already different. We measure everything with respect to the Creator. How much we want to give that place, that the Creator will fill. That I had, let's say, $3,000, and they're gone. So I want the Creator to fill that place, and not that I will receive instead of it some other filling in each and every place. I only want to fill it with the feeling of the Creator, and nothing besides that, to pray for that. So can we say that in the 10, I had a feeling of a certain closeness to connection, and I've lost it? Yes, certainly. French. A question from a friend. Is it possible, without reaching attainment, to feel a deficiency for connection with the friends in the 10? A deficiency for connection. We can feel it even without the wisdom of Kabbalah, without our tense, that are yearning to reach spiritual attainment, but rather that the benefit from connection is felt everywhere, between people who work together, between scientists, between politicians. In everyone, it's not something special. 1. Yes. Continue. What does it mean? That the illuminations are divided, but each time we have new discernments. No French. French. Go ahead. Please repeat. Then the article says that the illuminations are divided, and they cause to have more. When it says that the illuminations have been are divided. It means that we regret what we knew before. It contradicts the beginning of the article. I didn't understand what he means. What? Where is the contradiction? I also didn't understand. Explains that we later regret. We wish to get to know what more than we knew before. Okay. Well, we'll talk between you. Maybe you can understand him, and then you can ask me. Okay. Yakov. 1. Okay. The law of development looks like something that a person should take even without wanting it. He has a deficiency, and then the deficiency doubles, and each time the deficiency grows and grows. So where's my choice in the process? The deficiency doesn't just grow in a person, but rather to in each and every person. There is a deficiency which is suitable for him, which is revealed according to quality and quantity. And so we have to realize that all of the deficiencies that awaken in us, they are deficiencies that are suitable for us, and we need to connect nicely to them, meaning to work with them. We just need to change. We don't need to change the deficiency itself, but rather the direction. How do I use it? How do I accept it? And what do I do with it? How do I actualize it? This is what it is all about. The deficiency itself, it is seemingly abstract, but how do I use it? In order to receive, in order to bestow, for the benefit of myself, for the benefit of others. So by this the deficiency changes, but the deficiencies in and of themselves, they exist in a unique abstract form in the soul of man, and they become revealed gradually. He writes here as if a person himself can create the deficiency by himself, using the means called the virtue. What is a virtue? Through the group. When we look at others, when we work together, we can use our common deficiencies, and therefore a person who had no deficiency before, and he would come to us, let's say, and become incorporated in the group, and he has no problem. He doesn't want anything that is special. He just finds it interesting to be among us. However, when he is with us, bit by bit he starts to discover that he wants just like us, the same goals, the same things. This is how it is. Free, after the light departs. Where can the vessel bring additional deficiency? It had pushed away the light itself. Where you take that from? No, it had lost it. Alright, the loss is also it's the vessels. What are you saying? Okay, guys. No, I'm not going to get into such a scrutiny of the article. It's not really an article he wrote. It is a particular special specific thing. So that the vessel, that efficiency and the filling, it all comes from above, and the person and people just have to decide. One has to decide what should it be directed to. That's it, and one has to know that. Nevertheless, he would reach the goal. However, he has two paths. Either I will hasten it, or in its time, that is all. Meaning either through the path of Tura, of the light, when he works correctly with his deficiency, or he doesn't work correctly with his deficiency, and then it's not through the virtues, the powers, but rather through negative sensations. But nevertheless, he is drawn forward either, or he's pulled from before, or he's pushed from behind. And we need to be sensitive to this. We need to increase our sensitivity each and every moment to how are we advancing. What now is advancing me from the state that I was in to the state that I need to be in a moment later? By what do I advance? Am I being drawn forward? Do I want to be pulled forward? Or maybe I don't want anything, and then I become the animate or the vegetative, or maybe even still, and whatever happens, happens. So here we need as much as possible to assist the Creator to work on us. Okay, who are those who were rewarded? How did they rewarded? And who are these common people? Ordinary people were rewarded through patience and as much as possible work in the group. And they are called ordinary people who do not enter these wisdom according to their intellect. They're not looking for special powers, but rather whatever they have before them, this is what they want to use as much as possible. All in all, we don't have such a great selection of means, but rather what we have: the books, the teacher who explains to us a little bit, and the group, and that's what everyone has. How can we develop this sensitivity in the group? Are we pushed from behind? Do we yearn for it by ourselves, or we're just animals? We don't care about anything. We don't even look at each other and confuse the group. then we're by ourselves. But if we do try to use the group, then we're no longer animals. We become Adam humans. Human Adam means that we bring ourselves to a group where we are all drawn to it together. When we all reach one form, that is called Adam, similar to the Creator, and this is the essence of our work, meaning we reach a state as you see that there aren't so many means in the wisdom of Kabbalah by which to reach the goal. And eventually, either we dry out on the path and we leave and we don't want it and we don't care about anything, we despair, or we seriously reach connection. Because we are in the last generation, and only in that way we can truly reach success. So if we nevertheless continue, we hold by the teeth and we come closer to each other because there is no choice. So we reach a state where in the connection between us, which we create forcefully, we connect forcefully above our laziness, above the natural rejection of our ego. We nevertheless connect between us. So specifically, we should respect the opportunities given by the evil inclination who is obstructing us from connecting. If we make an effort above it and we do connect, then in this effort, as much as we may, it, even though I don't want it, and I'm repelled by it, and I'm tired of it, and I'm truly disgusted by it, I can't do it. So, through such efforts, there, forcefully, this is called by the force of faith above reason, we reach a state where there we do discover the Creator who becomes revealed according to our efforts, and he brings us to such a success where we discover him as the one who is saving us from the separation. And this is only if we don't let go, we don't leave, and when we surrender before these conditions and we are nevertheless willing to do everything up to the very last moment of our life. The question is the personal. Sensitivity is clear. A person can feel is being pushed. He exerts more. But this common sensitivity is something we have to scrutinize between us in a workshop perhaps. Try, you will feel if there's room for it or not. So the place for faith is revealed. So it turns out that bestow to the Creator becomes more important than my deficiency. But if we do not and allow the deficiency to be filled again, let's say with £10,000, how can we grow in faith? How does the deficiency for faith grow? I don't quite understand what you're saying. Wherever we are, we need to detect in it the tendency towards connection between us and the Creator. And as much as we're lacking it, missing it, we have to turn to the Creator and ask, and additionally do it forcefully. We don't want to hear anything or get anything else. Only the connection between us and with the Creator, and demand the Creator to maintain this connection and try to do it all the time. So we have the deficiency for connection, for filling. So there is a deficiency. This creates a place, and above this place we build it what becomes the place of faith. The place of bestow, meaning there's a deficiency for reception, for connection with the Creator, and there is bestow. So how does the deficiency for connection with the Creator grow if you don't fill it up, but rather year for bestow? It's a deficiency that we want the Creator to fill, but he will clothe in it. He will be in it. We wish to present this deficiency to him. Go 6. Mako 6. If in that 10 we see that the friends are pushing, how can we influence them? Again, if in the 10 we see that the friends are pushing, they're pushing the friend in the 10. So how can we influence that? What does it mean push? When the 10 helps a friend to advance, we're talking about the fact that either the friend yearns on his own or he's being pushed. If we see there's a state where we push him, okay, so why not connected and also help him advance? I don't understand the question. What is the question if the entire group is helping someone advance, and there's a question, what should I do? I should also join the 10. Question is not clear. What is Moscow 6? He wants to ask something. No, okay. PT 32. Question about the difference in the example with the money when he loses the money, about the light. He writes here that the light, the illuminations are divided. Doesn't really disappear, but rather it becomes divided, diluted. It's not so clear. I wanted to understand. I can't hear you. Can you speak properly? Do you hear me okay now? No, not good. Okay. We will check it. Okay. Thank you, Raf. I heard you say in the beginning of the lesson something that I lack what I was able to give before and now I don't have it. How can I have a deficiency? That first one of £5,000. I understand if I lose it. But no, you don't have a deficiency. They give you a certain feeling of fulfillment, and then this fulfillment disappears, and now you have a feeling of you have a deficiency, a lack. This is, according to the rule, the expansion of the light, and its departure makes the vessel qualified for its role. Maybe you can explain, what did you mean by I lack what I was able to give before? How can I lack what I was able to give which is greater than what I even have? No, there's no such thing. I didn't understand how you're saying it. I had 5,000. Now I have only 3. Only 2,000. I have a deficiency for £3,000. That I've had and now it disappeared. And I've remained with only 2,000. So what are you asking? That's how you build a deficiency. You build a deficiency only through the fulfillment. This is also what we learned from the wisdom of Kabbalah. First the light created the vessel, filled the vessel, and then departed from the vessel, left a reshimo. Through these reshimo, these records that awaken in the vessel begins to yearn for the light, and now we have only one problem. How can the vessel advance towards the light, be similar to the light, and not to receive the light? This is what the wisdom of Kabbalah is all about. But this is a deficiency for reception, not for bestow. So no, the wisdom of Kabbalah is the wisdom of how to receive in order to bestow. Can I also ask, okay, we have a great efficiency of a friend, now which we truly feel. You said something about that the deficiency, when it comes we should fill it with the greatness of the Creator. How do we perform this action? When a friend receives some burdening on the path, and we want to complete this with the greatness of the Creator. So, how do we do it? Talk about the grace of the Creator before Him more and more. Pray for Him, and that's it. It's not according to the topic of the lesson. I'm sorry. PT 29, KP 35. How to use the deficiency correctly in order to expand the vessels from lesson to lesson, from meeting to meeting. We first of all need to think about it from the evening before you go to the sleep before the lesson. Whoever is in such a process, we need to think of the deficiency for the lesson in order to receive something from the lesson. Just like before a meal, when you know in advance that soon we'll have a special meal, we approach it, we make an intention for it, and accordingly, each one receives from it. Each one brings to this meal his own deficiency. That's how it needs to be. You receive the material for the lesson in advance, and you need to try and somehow go over it. The materials. We also feel a lot of pressures throughout the day to connect. How to do it so that, as you said, not to receive directly, but use it correctly at the moment we are in this state. Try. Talk to one another about how much each one is aiming himself at the lesson. Another thing that's one thing we'll let you connect and ask if you don't take care of the correct connection. Deficiencies awaken in us. How do we know that we were able to fill the deficiency with faith? Like again all the time deficiencies awaken in us. How do we know that we successfully filled these deficiencies with faith? We have to work on it all the time, and we'll know according to how we progress that we try to fulfill them. What happens with a deficiency is we don't manage to fill it with faith. Returns in a different form, but it returns nevertheless. We must do it, nevertheless. We'll learn how to do it. Instead of 1, he believes 2. It's okay. I see that. The questions are not about the article anymore. Nevertheless, what can we take from this article for work? There are 2 paths. The path of suffering and the path of light, the path of Torah, and we need to merit to rise on the path of Torah. Rewarded, isn't it? How did they were? They rewarded by being purified. How do we refined? By thinking as little as possible about myself and as much as possible about the others. By that we pass all of our progress to the common vessels of the 10, and that's how we come closer to the Creator. If we would not connect between us to take a single step forward towards the Creator, we will not advance. If a generation ago or a few generations ago, if we lived then, we would be very successful back then. But we are in the last generation, and here we have special conditions for connection on purpose. So, We have no other choice, only the 10, and through it forward, that's it. So try to feel how we are becoming closer to one another in the hearts and help the friends who cannot do it. And it won't do any good to talk to them, but rather to speak, to pray for them, to pray for those people whose heart is still hard and they are unable and they constantly fall into thoughts about themselves. It's a problem. So if I see it and I call a few people from the 10 whose heart is softer and more advanced and I speak to them, that we should think about these people who are not able to work with their hearts, and we pray for them. We pray that the Creator will soften their heart and we'll be able to connect more, and our spiritual success depends on that. All of us, this is the meaning of it, shall help his friend. So there is no other way. Let's try to work this way. Okay. PT24. I wanted to ask, what kind of a deficiency has a higher quality, as in our half of the work? Let's say I come to the lesson feeling that he's filled with £5,000, but he nevertheless knows that ego is playing with him, deluding, but he manages to bring all of the friends into his heart and the Creator. He continues the same way even though he's full. Or on the other hand, he comes to the lesson with as a rag, feeling anti everything, but he has a deficiency. He's completely empty. What is the fire quality in the way we work? But I guess we have a problem. It's a technical problem. We can see it with all the friends in Israel, so we should not get angry at the friends. We have some technical problem here. No, it's not that. I'm not hearing it. It's true like that. Yes, this is how it is with all the friends from you. No, it's not clear to me, but let's not be upset with the friends. They don't hear it. I'm saying this to everyone. So, everyone is now hearing us. Indeed, we have a technical problem. It's not yet clear what it is, but we should know it. We can make an effort to hear it, but I got you my. Let me say it again. The important thing is that we, those who are conscious, who yearn for connection between them and the Creator, they gather and they speak about how they can embrace and strengthen everyone and arrange the walls of the ship in order to advance towards. We have to understand that the Creator is ending those problems and He's burdening the hearts of those friends who cannot feel themselves in connection, and we have to pray for them that they, meaning we have to turn to the Creator. What does it mean to pray for them to turn to the Creator? So He would nevertheless soften their hearts and they will feel that they lack connection with the rest of the group. This whereby they will come closer to the group from their state where they are unconscious about their lack of connection. This will help them tremendously, and all of us together. Only in this way can we advance. How can we take another step forward and another by revealing such disturbances, where time and time again each friend in his own style feels himself or doesn't feel himself, but we all feel it, or maybe not even feel it so much, but he's drifting apart from the group and we're making all kinds of efforts to pull him back in, and we have to pray even when we don't feel someone is weaker. Nevertheless, we need to pray for that. We have nothing else for which to pray, only the connection between us. Don't let it go. Other than holding ourselves together, we have no other chance to advance towards spirituality. True spirituality, that might be revealed now. It's not like the great cholists of the past, but this is for all of humanity, the last generation. Let's go to a summary of what we just heard for 5 minutes. We heard many things. In the beginning of the lesson explained what the deficiency in faith is. That's what I'm lacking, that I don't have what to give to the friends, and the connection. There was an explanation about the two paths of suffering, that it says that it's a part of development, and the path of the Torah through remedies. And a person has to check every time what draws him where he is. He writes in the beginning of the article that suffering is a path for advancement, that ultimately everything will reach perfection. It's optimistic even through the path of suffering. Eventually one will reach the goal. But the question is it necessary? Is it necessary? So, he explains that it's possible to actually walk a path of making vessels through the expansion of the lightest departure. The whole issue of the money that he had, which then vanishes, and then he has a lack through which he receives vessels. And he concludes by saying that any place that is deficient becomes a place for faith. However, if the place is full, if there is no lack, then there is no vessel. There's no place for the existence of faith. So, it's a very beautiful article, illustrating the creation of the vessels. Also, my summary of the article is that we need vessels. We constantly have to work and develop our vessels. Quote something from what's said to raise sensitivity in every moment. How are we advancing? What's helping me advance? From the state I was to the state I have to be in the moment, we are awarded through patience and as much work in the group as possible. The example of the vessels with the 5,000, 2,000s, that there's a lack. That's clear. But what does it mean rewarded by? Meaning not to wait. That's why we have the commandments, the advice, that we can just go quicker ahead. Have said that we need to assist the Creator in working on us. And there was a seemingly simple matter, but he dove deeper into it, beyond the article, focusing on how the wisdom of Kabbalah teaches how to transition from in order to receive to in order to bestow that. What builds spirituality is the records, the lashon that remains in the vessel. He says now the vessel wants to be like the light rather than to receive the light. It's a small detail, but it's the question of what do you want from the connection between us, to take something from the friend or to be similar to him in qualities, and how do you want to be with respect to the Creator? It's very deep, that little point that I've opened. I wrote, only if you don't let go and subdue to all these conditions and are willing to do everything till the last moment of life. Gave us advice how to help each other. What man will help his friend is that we have to feel as much as we become closer in the hearts and help the friends who can't. It won't help to talk to them, but to pray for them if it's difficult and they fall, and so on. Another principle that I've talked about is how a lack for us is built only through the filling, meaning that the light builds the vessels. The person receives some fulfillment. He feels something. Then the Creator takes away that fulfillment, whereupon the person now has a lack, and so we need not cry because the feeling was taken from us. Rather, we need to rejoice since we finally have a vessel. So if we're talking about the connection between us, if we had some great connection yesterday, so let's go to the next part of the lesson. Before we start learning together, we feed our quote from Love, preparing us for the lesson. Love says the following: I never thought a time would come when I would bring the lessons of to my students 30 years after he passed away. People would be able to listen and understand and be impressed and feel what he wants to convey. So we will see. It's possible that this part is not exactly right. We will prepare other parts soon and we'll go together. Let's say now we'll read something from part 4. For example, the main thing for us is to try to receive from him what passes there between the words, that spiritual force. Again from Rav's words relating to learning from Ash. I never thought a time would come when I would bring the lessons of Kabash to my students 30 years after he passed away, and people would be able to listen and understand, to be impressed and feel what he wants to convey. So we will see it's possible that this part is not exactly right. We will prepare other parts soon, and we'll go together. Let's say now we'll read something from part 4, for example. The main thing for us is to try to receive from him what passes there between the words, that spiritual force. So we will now read in Tess, Volume 1, Part 4, Chapter 2, Inner Light, Item 20. Then we'll continue to Chapter 3. Before we begin, let's read Item 10. The words of the subheading, the coarse light that does not depart, becomes a vessel, and the reflected light and the records remain in it. Item 10. It turns out that in that world of, although at that time the making of the vessels had not been completed, nevertheless, the phases and existence from which they were made, which is coarse light, that is connected with refined light, had already been there, and when the refined light returns upwards, the coarse light remains below, and this is the phase of the vessels themselves. They're in that coarse light which is the phase of the vessels, the refined lights, left there above 2 phases, 1 direct light, a record, and 2 reflected light. Let's continue to the lesson. So what's written here? In general, the light does not have changes. The only changes are in the vessels, and we are talking about the lights, according to the inspiration of the vessels. And since the vessels remained, the way they get inspired, this is how we call the lights. That's why I can speak about a light, and I can speak about the vessels, but we have to know finally who determines the vessel, not the light. What? In order for there to be a vessel, you also need light. He says in the text that's a coarse light, that is the phase of the vessel. So item 20, inner light, meaning the reflected light that remains after the departure of the direct light from within it. Yet we need to thoroughly understand the above matter of the ascent of the lights, and know precisely what ascended, what was refined, and what remained below and became vessels. You already know that the screen means a detaining force over the upper light so that it does not expand into 4 phases of coarseness in phase 4 called. So what is that? In the matter of the ascent of the in's words, it doesn't mean the coarseness of phase 3 receiving in order to receive that's prohibited, but know that it pertains only to the screen and reflected light in her, who raises, who ascends, screen, and then from those two, which to the screen and the reflected light. So they in the words are called the light of, they are called light, because there is no other light in Malat. From the restriction and onward, the vessel of herself, who's the vessel of Malat herself, receives in order to receive. She cannot assent as. Why? Because her assent means refinement, as we know, and that's possible only in a screen and not in a vessel, because the matter of this refinement is only in the vessels, to the same extent of coarseness that are in the vessels. In each and every, it remains permanent and always exists until they get corrected, and that will already be clarified. So what's written here? We learn that the desire to receive, called yearning or longing, it doesn't disappear. A person who sees something good, he yearns for it. There are no changes. We can only understand that from an allegory. Let's say we have a fast, and the body wants to eat, so you can tell it, I'm not going to give you food. I'm putting a screen, a detaining force on what you want, and you're not the landlord on your body to tell him that today there's a fast and you won't be hungry. The vessel itself has nothing to do about the refinement, because what is a refinement on the contrary? Now he can't overcome the big lust. It can overcome like a small lust. So that's what he says here, that the vessel of Mal cannot rise to, since the ascent means refinement, and that can only be in the screen, but not in the vessels. This matter of refinement does not apply to the vessels whatsoever. Rather, the measure of coarseness that exists, vessel of coarseness in the vessels of every boo remains constant and always exists till they get corrected. So what is refinement? The refinement of the screen, as we learned from phase 4 to phase 3, means that because of the bush, the striking of the inner light and the surrounding light on the screen, the last phase was lost and disappeared of the coarseness and the force of detaining of the screen. So what did? What disappeared? The detaining force could already overcome. So we find that from now it detains, it can overcome the upper light from expanding only to phase 3 of coarseness that remained in it, meaning a smaller lust, a smaller yearning, because in phase 4, it's not incorporated there now. We find that it does not detain and not return that upper light only from the first 3 phases of coarseness that remained incorporated in it from phase 4, where the reflected light from those 3 phases is not sufficient to clothe the direct light only until. So here it's a bit mixed up. It's difficult, because we're speaking about the will to receive. But we should say that it's still in general, since we know that in holiness, if there's no screen, you don't use the coarseness. That's why he says that now the coarseness is incorporated in the screen, because to begin with he's not using it anymore, because he can't use it if there is no screen. That's what's lacking here. The reflected light that is returned from these 3 phases is sufficient only to clothe the direct light up to its clothing does not reach Ket. It therefore naturally turns out that the light of Ket disappears from the bottle, because the light is not captured in without a garment and a vessel. It has been thoroughly explained at the ascent and refinement relate to the screen, not at all to the vessels. as much as it can overcome. The vessels that remain in their place after the departure of the direct light are what the calls coarse night light are the four phases of coarseness incorporated in that reflected light, that it has already been clothed. They clothe the tense field of the goof, which has now been emptied of their lights, and that we don't talk about. So we're done with this chapter, and we have to start the next page. So part 4, number 1. When rises, it leaves at its place to illuminate. Number 1. We shall start to explain them from which is the last one. To leave a record. It is said that during its ascent from to the place of and upward, it leaves a record for Malat. In the place where was, that record never leaves there. Even when Malat returns and rises to the Anator, all the other spur do the same, excluding. So what's written here? The record rises to. First, who rises here. It means that the light of the ascends to Hututhood. So he leaves a record in the place where there was. For who? For, it means, for the vessel of Mal. So what does that mean? For the Mal. If the explanation is, now, I'll say it briefly. What is the intention when he says that? It rises up. We learned. Since there need to be tense field, and since some departed, it is lacking, in order to complete tense, on the records that remained from the lights. That completes itself to tense as if there were tense. So now he says, he explains that when ascends, it leaves a record in its place to illuminate. What does he mean to illuminate? That's the question. If to illuminate when illuminates, that there will be tense, that's why the also shines in simple light. Since there's another rule that the record that remained is for the need of the vessel, that's why we learned that all the vessels that depart leave a record in the vessels. Only the Malat does not have a record, and who gives life to that vessel? So I say who? The light of that remained, the light of that departed from left the record for the need of and the record. Left for the need of means for the need, for the vessel of, and it shines also to, the vessel of. Now let's see below number 1 of inner light. It leaves a record in the place of the, for the need of the Mal. So inner light, he says, it has already been explained. That is called, and her emanator, which is called, when the screen inv was refined from all the coarseness included in it, and remained refined, in complete equivalence with, which is his emanator. It is considered that Malat returned upward to the emanator. It is so because when they are both in their measure of refinement, they are in adhesion and incorporated in one another like a single phase. We know that this disparity of form is the measure of the difference and separation in the spirituals. An equivalence of form is the adhesion and the unification in the spirituals. Thus, when Mal of the G and Mal of the are equal in their measure of refinement, they are regarded as being in adhesion with one another and incorporated into a single phase, like we saw in the previous parts. So what is he explaining here? We have no connection. It should be written here above. So, look above. The same record does not depart, even when Malat returns in a sense to the emanator. So here, he explains the number 1 what. It means that ascends to the emanator. There's no place you see. It is said, that record never leaves there, even when Malat returns, and rises to the anator. By this he tells us, that even when the screen has been refined of all its coarseness, until it remains equal to the refinement of the emanator, the screen is still incorporated with the records of the tense field of the duf. Only phase 4 is excluded, as the last phase does not leave a record, because these records are of direct light, and the last phase does not receive direct light inside her, only reflected light, as we know. So what did he explain here? Not like we've learned earlier, that I need the record to complete the tense, to be in every degree of tense meaning. When only the light of Mal illuminates, we find that we're lacking there, since the record remains from every light that departed, and we see that the records complete to the tense field. We also learned above that the records remain, even when the light departs from the vessel of. If I say that a need, that the records will complete. So that is to say that while there's a best light in the vessel of Malad, but when the vessel of Mal also departs, the light has nothing to complete. Why am I saying that the light of illuminates to even when the light departs? We learn that since every light that every vessel needs light to revive. It is at least the record revives it since doesn't have a record. That's why the light that remained in illuminate to the empty vessel of Mal. Here he comes and says something completely different. Here we're not talking about the vessels. We're saying something completely different. Even after Mal, meaning the screen that ascends to the emanator to the, means that it was refined the screen. So there is no screen there. So we're not already talking not about the lights, not of the vessels, only the core screen that refined is incorporated from all the records, except for the last phase, because it did not have light. That is also difficult. Why? Why is this difficult too? We learned that the fact that the last phase departs is because it has no direct light. So what's connected whether it does have direct light or not? What we say that in the last phase, the intention on the screen was lost. If we're speaking about a screen and some belonging it has to the direct light. So we scrutinized and learned above that there's a refined vessel that illuminates, and there is a coarse vessel called below. That is the last phase that says up to. Here I don't want to receive any more. That was phase 4, let's say. And we learned why the last phase was lost. Since the reflected light that refineses the screen, refina, and alter that force. So what connection does that have to direct light? He says look below. Below in the line that starts rising to the ionator. We know that even when the screen is refined from all coarseness until it remained equal to the refinement of the emanator, that's the proof that it ascended to the emanator and is refined as sim that it has no coarseness. Still the screen is incorporated from the records in the tens of the goof, meaning from the coarseness, except for the record of phase 4 because the last phase does not leave. As we explained above, because these records are of direct light, and the last phase does not receive direct light into her, only reflected light as we know. That's why the last phase does not leave a record. When we talk about the coarseness incorporated from coarseness, what does it mean that it doesn't leave a record? What he explains here. So he says you should know that these records that remained incorporated in Malat, meaning in the screen of Malat, even when she is incorporated in the emanator, that it ascended to Malat. That's called the emanator towards the durf. Here are that nucleus. They are the nucleus for the birth of the second. It is so because all the lights and vessels are extended to the second from these records. It is so because the screen of Mal is never refined, and the striking in phase 4 that was only in the coupling by striking in the screen of phase 4 where in the is never-ending coupling. When Malat of the goof, where the Mal of the soul the Malhood of goof rises and incorporates in the screen of the, so she's incorporated the screen of the tabal in the screen of the, that causes an awakening of coarseness. That is incorporated in the records in her in the screen of Mal that ascended to the, because that screen receives the coarseness from below upward that is included in the screen of the. However, as soon as the records in her return to the coarseness, it is inverted in them into coarseness from above downward, because they come from the tens of the Valf that were already there's clothing from above downward. By this the phase of the goof in the screen that ascended reappeared there, and this revelation was a descent and separation of there, because it returned to the but not to face called, only to face 3 called. There is where the coupling by striking happened again in the and it elicits tense on the degree of it is called, and that will already be clarified. What does he explain to us? He elaborates here more than before. Let's first a little preamble, a little introduction. We see that he explains to us the records, that the records have 3 discernments. 1, when the light shines, and the light departs. That's one time. The records remain. For example, when the light of kettle departs, the light, and only the light of shines, then I need the record. So there will be the light of in the kettle, since there's a rule that each must begin from the kettle. So the records remained in order to complete the lights, and that's why he teaches the second, when the second phase was refined, when Biner does not illuminate only the light of shines, it lacks the first 3. The records that remain from the ket and the records that remain from the records that remain from Biner shine to Zin. But what do I need the records to? Complete the lights. That's one thing. In addition, we learn that even the light of mood departs. So for example, even the record that was in the light of shines also to the mal. Why? Because before there was a light in malad, I understand very well. I need mal to have the entire, so the records complete the lights. And now the light of malhood also departs. What do I need the records for then? And here he comes and says another thing. I need the records not for the lights right now, but only for the vessels. Since the light departs the vessel, and the vessel needs life. Liveless, vitality, the records in each vessel revives the vessels. And so why do I need the records for the vessels? And since malad, he says, does not leave records, who gives vitality then to the vessel of malhood, and he says that the record remains in the vessel of his shines to the vessel of mal clear. Then he comes and says a new thing. I need the records not in order to complete the lights and not in order to complete the vessels, but only to complete, to have a nucleus for the emergence of the second degree. And he says a completely different thing here. So he interprets what this says about the screen. The screen rose mal, rose. He says the following. He says, this record never departs even when malut returns and rises to the emanator. What does it mean mal rises to the anator? He means malhoods of taboo was refined from one discernment to the next until it comes to equivalence of form. It rises to mal, which is called the emanator, and then the screen includes all the records, and these records, from them comes that mood. So he explains to us how it comes. So the screen of the goof, which was purified, by this is it is discerned that he rose. It rose to the row. It is then incorporated in the screen of the. What does this mean? We need to remember the rule that in the head there is no refinement. Therefore, the screen remains there in its full stature, full power. But this is from above, from below upwards. From below upwards. It means it makes a coupling. It doesn't want to receive from this, and only then it receives. So he says that the of taboo, with all the records, are included in the massive in the courses from below upwards. That's one thing. And so he says we say that the screen of the taboo, called the ending malhood, is included in malat, which is called the coupling malhood, where it makes a coupling of coupling by striking it can do that there. And he continues, to when that coupling was made, let's say over dead 4 over 3 and of why it's this the third, the fourth phase, the last, it does not leave a rashemo record. So malat of taboo awakens over the coarseness in her body when there is a coupling she can receive, and that is called, that means that she descended below. Why is there a core nucleus for this coarseness? From what degree is considered that it descended to 3 to G3. She stands there of taboo which rose and was integrated in the coarseness in the row, and they brought the light back to the it awakens in her that coarseness from below upwards, which she acquired by her set to the wash of taboo, now performs a coupling by striking, from which above the from the to off emerges the ab, the external ab, which he calls that from the to the taboo, and so the goof emerges. And so he clarifies the order of the 3 discernments, full discernments. That concludes that, and we need to start the next item. Item 2. This record is from the first light, is called, which descended through straightness. A light that comes in straightness is mercy, and a light that comes on the way back up is reflected light, and it is judgment. The record is through straightness, which is why it is mercy. What does he say here? The records that remain from the light of aim from above downwards, that is called straightness. Where is the light that comes through that way above, that's called reflected light? What does he mean? Let's look at item 2. Item 2. From the first expansion, which expands, fern, it consists of direct light and reflected light clothed in one another. Direct light is called refined light, and reflected light is called coarse light. The residue that remains from the refined light after its departure is called a record. It is mercy because it is the remains of the direct light that extended from above downward into the phase of clothing in the pulsu. The reflected light that has been emptied of direct light after its departure is regarded as the vessels inside which the records that remained of the direct light clothed, as this says about. In the first pulsu, he does not talk about tam and flavors just like the first light. He means the pulsu of Galar and he wants to clarify that there was a departure in the pulsu of Galar, and what remained are records part of the light. The records that remained a part of the light that is called mercia and directness or straight, whereas the reflected light that remained, he says here that from them the vessels were made. Let's look at item 3. Item 3, light that comes and is extended from the emanator because of the coupling. He returns and says, the light that comes from the emanator because of the coupling by striking that is performed on the screen during the degree of its refinements. At that time, the levels gradually diminish until the light disappears entirely and returns to its root above to mud. These levels are called reflected light, judgment, since they appear during the catnut smallness of the departure. So, what does he mean? He means, well, it's as I explained before, the records that remains from the first light, which is called tam flavors, it is called direct light. Straight line the records that remain from the light that comes in roundabout way or from below upwards. He means he's talking about new dots, that is called reflected light and judgment in item 2. Here, he gives it a different meaning. What does he mean? He means that the direct light, well, actual direct light, there's no difference between flavors and dots, and the reflected light is reflected. Well, it's a returning light from which the vessels are made. So, he explains 2 things at once here. Let's look at item 3 above. It is known that when the spur of came, their faces were downward. What does it mean their faces were downward? So he says, because the purpose of their coming was to shine downward. Therefore, their faces were through the receivers, but they returned upward. They turned their faces upward toward the emanator and their backs downward towards the lower ones. Let's see item 4. What does he say? When the spot of came, their faces were downward. There is no movement whatsoever here. God forbid, no posterior and no anterior. Rather, as has been explained in previous parts, any change of form is called spiritual movement. No, that bestowal of the bestow flights or extension in the vessels is called face panim in Hebrew. What does he explain to us? What is the meaning of panim face? It means that there's posterior right the back of the neck, and mullet doesn't have all these things here. And so, if so, what does it mean panim? Face in spirituality. So he says that sometimes the upper one bestows, and then the upper one is called panim face. The lower one extends, and then the lower one is called panim face draws. Rather, okay, so now we know what is panim face below and face above. Let's continue reading. It is known that any giver gives in the coarser thing. What does it mean? Thus the coarser the screen, the higher the level of tense that is imparted there, so for, and so on. Therefore, the lights of Mercia are regarded here as being imparted as clothing in the pot, with their face downwards. Facing downwards, for the word face means isto, downwards, means greater coarseness. If so, what does it mean that their faces were turned downwards? It means that the bestow is captured in the greater coarseness in the degree. This means this is the meaning of their faces are turned downwards. This is when the upper one bestows upon the lower one, but above it is written that when they return to rise above, then they turn their faces upwards towards the einator. What does it mean? Let's read it in E. 5. It's already been explained that the state of bestow is called face, panib. It is therefore understood that the state of departure from bestow is called back or posterior. It has also been explained that downward means the coarser face there. If so, what is the meaning of their backs? Downward, it means that the lights depart and retire themselves from the coarseness. The posterior begins to depart from the coarseness below, so that a greater departure will be in the phase with the greater coarseness. And when they return upwards, this needs interpretation in dots. They turn their faces upwards. Their faces are upturned. Their more refined meaning. 3, 2, and 1, and the posterior, below which were bestowers before, and 3, and such like. Each time, so below, that means that the abundance, the parts, reaches the tam flavors on a lower degree, and we say that time when do. They emerge from below upwards. Each time there's a refinement, below upwards, and what was for now, becomes the posterior of 3, and what was the face of 3 becomes the posterior of 3 that turns into the face of 2. Now he explains, for when the kettle rises to the annator, there is no doubt. Let's go to the next part of the lesson. We're going to hear a conversation from about a week ago, 25th of October. The conversation is about the spirits of society that begins in the tent. After we hear the conversation, we'll share the question is about the spirit in the society. So we thought about it. We talked with many friends. Well, who needs to give the atmosphere the spirit? You gave the spirit to the society. Now, you give spirit to us here in the tent, to us and the friends. Well, this is how I see it. If they're asking who gives the spirit, can the society itself generate its spirit, or do you need a person or a body, like of a societal committee? Is there a committee? Are there such societies where there was no leader? Who needs to lead the society in terms of spirit? I think not. The organisation. There's clear hierarchy. We have managers. That's clear, otherwise it can't work. Or maybe the creator can manage us. These are things I don't know. So what do you think? I mean, historically it's clear that there was always one individual called the leader, even not in spiritual societies. It doesn't matter. Political party. There needs to be a leader who's very charismatic, and he leads, he gives the spirit, he gives hope. It's clear. It's clear. Did we reach a stage in our development where the society itself can generate that spirit, or maybe a group of people where there's no one who's especially prominent, one of them giving that spirit, a small group, let's say? I don't know. That's what we're facing now. We need this. From where will the spirit come? Historically, the spirit always came from the teacher. The teacher maintained his students, as Balasam, you said he maintained his students, and a bash of course, and before it's clear. There's a teacher, and he sustains things. He holds on to the things. The question, now the group, how can the group maintain its own spirit by itself without a leader? We have a leader if we don't have a leader, if we won't have, well, actually you said that the time of leaders is over. There won't be a single person leading our little society or the society at large. So we're looking for like a windmill or something. How can a society itself create its wind, its spirit? Yeah, we have to be concerned for that spirit. Do you have any advice to the society? How can a society without a leader generate that spirit? Can you choose its own leader? And this leader, can it be a few people, a number of people, a committee that leads, which perhaps people change in rotation, or other means, other ways? There's no society without a leader. Yes, so who is the leader in the future society? I don't know. What can we do in order to know? We have to know this, as you said, right? There's no society without a leader. We must know this. So maybe we will ask, maybe we'll pray 24/7 that the Creator will give us an answer. Who will lead us? Who will lead us? A leader, can that be a group of people, or is a leader a single person, or maybe a leader that's not flesh and blood? Maybe it's spirit. It can be a group of a few people. So a group of a few people can be a leader. What's more appropriate for our generation? From I don't want to say, because I'm not sure about what I'm saying. From where will we gain confidence? How can we know? Why is it concealed? Why is it not a very clear and obvious thing? But you see that this is the way it is. Yes, but for what reason? So that we scrutinize it ourselves, that it's not revealed. For what reason is it concealed? It's concealed from us. Is it something that will be revealed? Do we need to demand that revelation? Will it simply come when the time is right, when it needs to come? You think? I don't know. We're expecting, but it will come when nobody knows. What will come, love? What will come? A leader, a demand for a leader. And that's what you say is concealed. There needs to be. Not only that, but yeah, it's for sure, it's concealed. I think, by the way, that if the society lacks spirit, and instead of studying about because who understands what ordem means, even we can take Kabash's articles and deal with that, engage in that. We haven't read Rabash for a long time, the articles about the society. Yeah, I agree. Instead of the study of the Tirit, we should, instead of study of the tense, No, but you can somehow. We can combine them, right? Not to give up on test. I agree. Yeah, when the society gets together, discussing things I don't know discusses. Its problems, its purposes, its goals, its doubts. We meet, we talk about things, we work things out. Based on the source texts and how is the society different to another society that assembles and discusses things? What will be in the society that's different than a group, let's say the UN? They all get there and talk and I don't know if they have a goal, if they have a means for a goal, if they have connection, that's it. And they know what could be if they don't implement what they decide. See, that's you have to accept everything and trepidation. Society talks, discusses, and now it's revealed that the society is split. You have opinions going both ways. So what is that? A society. It's a society if they're concerned that there's something inside it that separates it. So that's very good. Ultimately, you have to do something. Yeah, so is it according to what this friend thinks or that this group thinks or that one? It's not from today to tomorrow. They know that this is not good and these questions and these topics need to be implemented, need to be refined. You need to do something with them and that operation, that refinement, that process, it's through discussion, through connection and discussing things, talking to each other. Yeah. What is the meaning of that? That we're scrutinizing the topic, so each one then begins to understand what the other friends think, and as much as he agrees or not. In such a talk, an open discussion, we sit and talk. Do I need to say everything that's on my heart? Yes, otherwise, why do you even start? So it's a waste of time to even start it. If I don't open all the way, but it's I feel unpleasant. I'm afraid of about offending Mushy. Maybe Shimon will be offended. So that's not good. It's not good. Society needs to be so just all the way. I say everything that, not always, but if there's a connection between them. So they say today we're going to speak honestly. Still it needs to be done with love. That's the thing with love. There's no problem speaking openly. But first you need to prepare so that it'll emerge from that friend somehow with love. Not with an intention to offend, but with, if we're speaking about correcting society, then we agree between us that today, let's say from now, 2 hours we're going to speak of ourselves out in the open, in an honest, revealed way, and the style of discussion there are. People are very crass, speak with their hands or does. It need to be very respectable or should. Anyone each like how he wants, only respectable. Okay, and how should we prepare for such a candid open discussion? Everything is exposed and true. Everyone has to know exactly what open is, what an open discussion is. Social, revealed open. We heard everyone talked. We heard it. We understood where we are, and maybe we're divided. Maybe we have different views. Many views, one view. It doesn't matter. How do we transition from that? How do we reach a decision that we can actually apply? So decision, as much as I understand. Maybe I only heard part of it. Part I heard, part I didn't. But I think a decision has to be one together. Decision needs to be unanimous. The whole society agree. No, we can't demand that in advance that everybody's going to agree. What then? We need to demand from society that it'll be as serious as possible to reach a decision that everyone can accept. Okay, but after that, someone needs to execute, to act upon that decision. That's not the society. Everybody, yes, not everybody agrees, different opinions. Speak about it again and again till you refine it, and you see that you can't in any other way. How can hundreds of people reach an agreement? Hundreds. I don't know. But this is it. There's hundreds. You can say you don't participate in the discussion. I don't know about hundreds of. Okay, clear. So what do you know about the forum of the 10? The 10 can decide to discuss. That's inside their little family. Yeah. If you want to transition to the larger level, between tens. So for now there's no solution yet. So in the society at large we don't know how to reach a general agreement yet. That's why we have an organising body, a committee. They organise because we don't know how to reach an agreement. But in the 10 we do need to reach an agreement. All right, now I wanted to ask, what is the outcome of this revelation? Let's say I suddenly discover that Shimon thinks this and that about me. He talked for 2 hours, and for 2 hours he talked. Suddenly I find that Alon, who I thought is my friend, that he likes me. Suddenly that he remembers things I did 20 years ago, and various such like. So candidly each one said what he thinks about me. What do we do then? How do we advance? How do we gather all that? I was offended by some, from some I was less offended. I talked about him as well, so what do we do with this? We try to be connected above it. So up to now I thought that Shimon is very cute, and he thought good things about me. He says nice things, but suddenly now I know, and he must tell me what he thinks about me. Yes, and suddenly I know that he doesn't exactly like me, and then above that this is revealed now, so it's preferable that he tells me that, right, because otherwise, what's the point of it just being in him, staying in him, and then above that I need to love him, right? That means that I advance if I succeed, of course, in overcoming that. Aren't you afraid that perhaps I might be offended and shut down close up, and maybe not talk to him for a month after, or maybe ever? But we agreed between us. All right, we agreed, but we're human beings who are sensitive. He offended me. I don't know. I'm not. I can't. I don't know if I can overcome that, and certainly not to rise and connect. Maybe the reaction would be such that we were in such conflict that we never talked to each other. Why, my friend? Because we never did that. It's like opening the Pandora's box. We agreed. So we agreed. Now each one opens his mouth. But now why did we open our mouth? We only found what each one thinks about the others, and we're now stuck in this mud. That's the fear. How to open the truth up in a proper way, what's in the heart, in order to corrupt it, and not to go backwards to sink into our egos. That's clear. So, what guarantees that we won't be stuck? They're in our personal calculations. Because now I heard what you think about me, and that paralyzes me. What each one thinks about the others. Why must I say everything that's in my heart? Maybe I'll just remain silent. It's better. You're not coming to say. You come to scrutinize what's in your heart towards each one of the friends. But it's an egoistic heart. It's clear that there's garbage refuge there in the heart. So what is the use? No, there's a difference whether you close it inside or you talk about it outward. Clearly, there's a difference. But up to now, we just shut it inside. I have something, but I don't talk about it because I know I'll offend the friend. That's what a cooker said. It's not good. It's not good to keep it inside. So, we have to schedule a time to bring it out, get it out. Yes. How can you tell someone about something that's well bothers you about him without offending him? We agree to begin with that. Now we can say it. I'm a sensitive creature. Everyone as soon as I touch, I poke you with a needle in that specific point. Maybe we agreed. We reached an agreement. But it still offended me. You've lowered me, humiliated me. Now I want to tell a cooker something about his behavior. How can I talk to him about it without offending him, without humiliating him, from a place of, well, I can say from a place of love? But it's words. We agreed. So we agreed that I can do everything. Then how should he receive it? Yes, he has to accept it in a revealed way. Allowed to argue, I can say I don't agree with you. I do agree with you. You think this, I think that. No. Not in that way. That's not her argument. It's not an argument. It's a scrutiny. It's a scrutiny. And when you scrutinize someone, that he's right or not right. I don't understand how is it that in scrutiny there's no someone, no right or wrong. There's how I say things and how he sees things. Each one perceives himself to be right according to his perception of reality. So what is the scrutiny here? There are two egoistic perceptions colliding with each other. So where do we get here? How do we advance from here? We advance according to the truth. There are friends who don't have confidence. Really, there are friends who lack confidence. Well, they say, well, yes, they have confidence. There are people like that, and there are people who lack confidence. And then a person may be offended for a long duration, a long time. How to awaken him? How will we talk about him, against him, and he lacks confidence, and now it becomes worse and worse for him. How can we say to him that it's in his benefit? First talk about that, and then go to the scrutiny. So we need to talk about it. Before to talk about, speak about the way each one's going to open up, why each one can open themselves, how they respond, and everything, as much as it's a must that we do it. I don't just come and tell the friend whatever I want. We agree ahead of time about a certain area. Let's say, for example, we want to scrutinize our framework. We decided upon a certain framework that we all commit to, and I have claims he does what he said he will do. He doesn't. And so we come and talk about that. It's not that I suddenly come and attack him with things that are completely unrelated or maybe have to do with a person's character. Yeah, but now you're talking on the level of the 10. Yeah, okay, so how often should we do that? That I can't say. By need, can we say when everyone decides that there's a need for it, according to what you agree, but in the larger society, the wide society, you don't think that it's necessary. In a big society, it's impossible. The society at large, it's impossible. Or maybe, yeah, a suggestion maybe in the 10 we talk about the society, right? Not about the 10, about the society. These are big and confusing things, okay? So here's the question in the society at large, let's say here, and the world's clear. Is it correct for us, is it proper for us to discuss the state of the society, the development of the society, or not? Do you think it's possible? I mean, what's the difference whether if you do it in a 10, why not do it in society at large? Then how do you see the coming convention? Or you ask, who's asking? Let's say 3,000 people are sitting there. Who do you ask? Let's say the group, the men, or maybe let's start with Moscow. Why do you? That's not what you're going to do tomorrow. Okay, let's start with stages, 300 people. You allow each person to respond. We have to. I mean, right, if we start with workshops in tense, each one will express himself, but again with tense, without tense, you can't do. It's so only. So is it important for each friend to express himself, each and everyone, and that's why we can't do it in the mass. No, it doesn't have to be this way, but each one should have permission to speak. In the bell, he'll have permission. If he wants to, he'll speak. Well, he must speak, actually, because if we talk, so the structure of our world is such, our bodies, time, space, and movement don't allow us to discuss for 300 people to discuss a thing. That's what I want to say. When you have 300 people, you can only convey a message. You can't discuss things. Maybe you can do a poll. Can you? Hear everyone. I never heard about Kabbalists making polls. A poll. It's something so foreign. Is it important for Kabbalists to hear different opinions? I didn't say to take into account and to accept those opinions, but is it important to listen to those opinions? That is important. So it's important. Now the form in which a Kabbalist hears these opinions, how is that done? Does he need to hear it? Does he need to literally hear people talking, or does he experience somehow on a level that we don't understand what is in the hearts of people, and that's enough? In our society, we all write, so in order to be impressed by the opinions of the society, is it proper for all of us, the world, to assemble, and each one will receive permission if he wishes to express his opinion with regards to some issue in the society, in order to advance the society. 3,000 people, for example, each one expresses, well, 300, let's lower the volume. 300 people gather each group. Let's say here in Petikfur we assemble, and now we want to discuss a specific issue regarding the society, the developments in the morning lesson hour, building, the upcoming convention. 300 friends and whoever wants to express an opinion. We all listen to it, and management takes that spirit that they absorb the group of people who heard all the opinions, and then they reach a decision which is in the benefit of the society, of the collective. Is that right? That? I don't know. You're asking only me. I'm asking everyone. First of all, this is something completely different to what we've been discussing. We talked about the proper, serious scrutiny in the 10. Yes, now, but I talked about the society now. Okay. But this is different here. Each One must talk. Each one has to say the truth. We need to prepare to schedule the time. This is different. This is regarding the 10. Yes, but now you're transitioning to something entirely different. An event. You think, how can you run such an event? How can you run it? Hundreds of people gather. So before you go and pose a question, you have to create some common denominator for everyone. So what are we now? What are we doing? We have a common goal, right? It's not High Park where each one says whatever they have on their mind. There's an emotional preparation. We have a specific topic that we want to decide upon. Each one expresses their opinion. We heard everyone. There's a certain spirit, and the management takes that, and it can return to the society with a decision. Maybe we can do a second round of scrutiny, right? But ultimately, why am I talking about how to run it? Because ultimately you started in a very orderly fashion. You create a certain platform and everyone expressed themselves. It's important to end this meeting then with greatness, right? The bash talk about the greatness of the society, praise of the society. We can add that in wholeness. In prayer, of course, heal so. But we need to see what a person is talking about. Then now you understand, okay, but if we prepared, we set rules. Let's say the discussion is, let's say, it's positive. We sat 300 people, we read. We're prepared, there's a topic chosen, no problem, but usually the people speak. The people speaking in such discussions, it's the same people, it's the same people who by nature they're talkers. Most people don't vote. Most people say, once I see 300 people there, I don't talk. You see, it's always the same people talking. Oh, I don't want to say the names, but it's clear the dominant members of society. And then, what's the problem? 300 people, but you won't get their opinion. You can ask each one, and you can't do that. You need to sit 500 hours for that. So, a few people will get up, but it doesn't reflect the views of everyone. So we're looking for a way to scrutinize, to perform scrutiny with 300 people in the 10 clear. It's easy. But 300 people, is there even such an option? And if so, in what way? In what topic should we be discussing? Because there are limitations here. This is what we're facing now, this thing. Yes, it's not that we don't want to. It's just not clear how to do it alone by ourselves. We talked about scrutiny in our 10. Is our 10 ready for such a scrutiny? Do you feel that we're ready for such a scrutiny between us? I believe so. You think that all the 10s are ready for this, or I don't know. So everything you said, it's not that tomorrow we take that and we say, guys, we recommend each 10 to discuss. No, you're saying this only to our 10. Everything you talked about relates to our 10. As much as I know our 10, we are ready, and everyone else do it, or they shouldn't do it. Do you take responsibility? I'm not taking responsibility. So they need to decide if they're ready to talk. Yes, and they decide. If they say we're not ready, they don't do it. Clear. And we decide that our next meeting or some opportunity, we sit together and speak candidly about how we can advance. I would very much like to hear from the friends what's not exactly right about me. How can I improve? How we can grow stronger as a 10, or maybe it's improper for us to do that. Why not? It's always possible. Yes, because I would like it very much. Instead of keeping everything I have in my heart. I remember asking you when I was in charge of the Israeli League. You said that if someone offends someone else, he'll hate him for the rest of his life, because you offended his ego, and now he'll hate you for the rest of his life. And we have examples. Most of our haters who hate you, they write about you every day, how you harmed them. I wasn't there, but they claimed that you offended them directly. Our enemies. Oh, the people that hate. Yes, the people who hate, they hate you. They say you offended them directly. I don't know how when I wasn't there, but just so you know, that's the thing. And it stays for years, and they have fueled to the end of their lives. And it's clear, nothing can stop them. Okay. Well, now I'm talking about our friends in the 10. If I now say something against one of the friends, he'll be offended, and supposedly he'll hate me for the rest of his life, because I offended his ego. I offended. How to make it so that no one is offended? You have to raise it to a different degree, where each one checks everyone in the 10 and comes closer to him gradually. If I was offended if Shimon, now let's hold an open conversation, and we prepared ourselves. But he said something I never thought about, and boom, he put a knife through my heart. That's what I feel now. And I can't emerge from that thought. What should I tell myself when I'm completely, absolutely offended by what he said? You can't forgive, and that's not good. What should I do? I can't forgive him. What I heard, I never thought about it. Our entire relationship, as far as I'm concerned, is so what do I do? What do I need to do in such a condition, such a situation to overcome? Or I can't, I'm offended. I'm feeling it, my emotions. I understand. So, what do I do with this offense? You're the thing you can do. So, why did we open this up? Well, okay. And now we'll summarize what we heard from words in the 10. We heard a lot of things. This is what I wrote down. You don't come to say, but you come to scrutinize what's in your heart towards all the friends. That's the matter. I think in these discussions that we do, it's not that I'm coming to say something good or bad, things about anybody, that I'm truly coming to scrutinize for myself what's in my heart towards each one of the friends. From that you can start inner work of our connection, me before our connection. First of all, good job with these talks, these scrutinies. I think it's important, it's critical, faithful. And I also wrote down a few things. Our goal is connection, and when you need to open the heart, you need to open the heart all the way. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Now, about reaching a decision, you need to reach a decision that everyone agrees with, that everyone accepts, and also it's not an announcement, it's a scrutiny, and in a scrutiny there's no one who's right or wrong. We advance according to the truth. From my impression from the talk, well, it's as if love wants to give us some kind of degree step, something for us to start thinking about. It's difficult for us to scrutinize. We ask many questions just so to somehow circumvent it, to not accept it. There's a lot of objection, rejection, resistance. We heard a conversation of connection between tents, that everything was about the tent. So, it seems that the emphasis is still the work in the tent, and less about working on the outside. And also the matter of the scrutiny, that important is our work together to reach the scrutiny, and not whose opinion we're accepting. If you can't forgive, it's very bad. I can't summarize, or a few points that draw a picture. So, we have to scrutinize. The decision isn't as important, but what to actually do now isn't clear. Each one in the 10 checks each one in the 10 and gets closer to them gradually. Said that there's no society without a leader, and I thought that thank God that is leading our society, that he is equipped with the force of love. And then, for him many questions, the answers are clear, that with God's help, we'll adhere to his quality to be equipped with the force of love, and will have less questions on things that are clear once you're equipped with the force of love. When you're lacking love, there are a lot of questions. I think that us who are on the path towards that love, we need to scrutinize these things a little more before we immediately start to act upon them. On one hand, it can build up but on the other it can also dismantle it completely. So we need to scrutinize properly how to do it, and what to do, like everything we do in the society, not immediately to jump and act, and then have to deal with the consequences. We're still on the path. We haven't reached the corrected state yet. The corrected state. On the other hand, I wrote, I came out of the lesson. There's a historical way to connect between the management, the nation, between the 10s, the 50s, the 100s, like in the ancient Israel, and we have to work according to that. So let's try to. And now we have an announcement about event of gratitude to the Creator. Do please, beloved friends, we have a special evening coming up Sunday, 6:30 in the evening. We'll all assemble here for an event of gratitude to the Creator. It will be an evening that summarizes an era, many years, in which people tried to denounce our teachers, to lie about us, and we won in court. So we want to share with you everything that happened, and close that circle in a very emotional way. And after that, we'll have a short lecture by Doctor for about resistance to the wisdom of Kabbalah over history. And we'll hear from friends who went through the process, were close to the process, and also our lawyer Galman, who explained the legal significance of it and answered questions. Now it's not a technical legal lecture. It's an evening of gratitude, connection, happiness on the path that we went through together. We'll have good food, gratitude, many moments of all gratitude. So we invite all the physical, all the Israelically to come here physically, and the worldly connects life